I find myself in a moment of desperation. I want to leave my children with a better world than the one I inherited from my parents. Yet, any way I measure it, it isn't a better land. We are more angry, more dogmatic, more focused on consumption, and more siloed than we have ever been. I love my kids. They are the entire reason that I do the things I do. I work very hard for my living. I spend monies where I can on experiences instead of stuff. My wife homeschools them, and we have from the beginning. This summer, our oldest children will start their adventure of leaving our house and heading into the world on their own. It's scary to send them out. I know this has been true for every parent for as long as leaving the fold has been a part of our humanity. But this era of our world feels far more tumultuous than the one I stepped out into 30 years ago. Things then seemed stable and predictable. The problems were isolated to me and my experience, and they were not the existential troubles my children have inherited. I know America is resilient, but for some reason I feel a deep panic and uneasiness in my soul. Our political system, which has always seemed to be a stabilizing and intentionally cumbersome force, is now totally broken. Grown men and women are petty. Problems are solved only by money and graft. Our voices are diminished, and the consequences that most elected officials should normally face have been eviscerated, and the system grinds on like the gears of an unstoppable clock. I see our people, who have been undereducated in history and communication, moving towards their comfortable spaces. We want to find our candidates for office who fill our checkboxes and make us feel like we wouldn't disappoint our talking heads. We think that if we get the person who is the least disappointing as a candidate, we have somehow won. This battle of red versus blue is sophomoric and has become inconsequential to the righting of the ship. What has become evident to me over the last several years is that no matter how well the people in front of the spotlight can answer the questions, the ship keeps moving in a dystopian direction. Conservative and liberal alike have advocated for their purity candidates and have pushed the electorate further and further away from the genius of the American system. We advocate for our people, then defend them no matter what the consequence. The election for president is coming, and I admittedly have fallen into the trap year after year that this election is the most important of my life. But strangely, this year feels very different. There's an imperative to this that cannot be understated. We have the two oldest people ever to run for this dynamic office being pushed in front of us. We are being told that this is the best America has to offer. We are told that we have to vote for one of these people because a third candidate is only going to play the role of spoiler. We stop believing somewhere in our great capacity to fix our problems with great ideas and great leaders. We have surrendered the ground and told ourselves that this is all we can hope for, and if our less than ideal candidate wins, we should be satisfied. Then each cycle comes, and we are disillusioned by our milquetoast heroes, and we start the whole thing over again. We have a sick America because we have chosen representatives who have no convictions, have no good ideas, and choose instead themselves over us. I'm finding myself deeply activated and compelled by a great sense of urgency in this cycle. Not because of the typical mumbo-jumbo about top marginal rate taxes or social issues, but because when you hear of the world careening towards war, and your own government militarizing censorship, and the general feeling that living life in America is difficult not because of self-induced choice, but because of a ruling class that suppresses success and liberty, the righteous anger becomes impossible to ignore. I truly believe that Robert Kennedy is the best voice we have in a generation, or more, and that his election is not just wanted but necessary for the survival of the Republic. I find myself wondering if John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were as troubled as I am about our moment when their society was deep in the throes of war. Were they as disillusioned then as I am now that their people were apathetic to the true dangers and threats to their liberties that were all around them? The most critical element of our moment is that if we don't rescue our republic from the clutches of the ruling class, there won't be another time to discuss capital gains taxes or abortion or Supreme Court picks. This is a battle between all the sinister forces that have placed assault upon freedom as their chief desire, and us. You, me, our kids. It's not a perfect system, but it is the one we have, and while we still have it, we need to work to do all we can to choose people who are going to undo the tentacled cancer of government that is around our necks. The country needs better leaders. Everyone should be done with the ridiculous choices that have been foisted upon us. We can do better. I'm tossing my meager talents and the time I have behind Mr. Kennedy. I am not, nor have ever been an activist for anything, but this has captured my attention, and there's something darkly imperative about our moment. You and I can leave this fear of the uniparty. We can leave the false narratives about lesser evils or spoiler elections. Get behind this movement. I think we will all find together that the momentum is moving in liberty's direction, but it is our responsibility to keep it going that way.